All right. This is the live stream. I do not know if anyone is watching at the moment. It seems that there's one person, but I don't know if that's me. I don't know if you can hear anything. I think hello, hello. I don't know. When someone comes on, we'll find out. But anyway, this is the 1,000 subscribers live stream, and we are going to have a Q and A. So, oh, Justin Messer, can you hear me, Justin? Oh, perfect. Thank you very much to both Justin and Henry. Yeah, so this is the live Q and A. So, what how this is going to work, I think, is that what we're going to do is you're going to be putting in questions through the chat, and I will answer. And then whatever happens first, whether we run out of questions or we reach 9 o'clock or thereabouts, we will then sign off because I know that tonight is Friday and people have other things to do, or maybe not. I don't know, but yeah. So we will go ahead and wait a little bit for other people. Hope Justin and Henry are doing well so far. Um, the last live stream we did was at 500 subscribers, and I think more or less 15. I'll be. Oh, what is your favorite prayer book? Okay, so this is probably an answer that changes from time to time. I would say that currently my favorite. Okay, so let's divide this into three different categories: missal, prayer book, or devotional, right? And then breviary. When it comes to the missal, I really think that the Baronius Press, uh, traditional Latin Mass missal is very good. For Novus Ordo, I think it's probably the Our Sunday Visitor, the Midwestern Theological Forum, same thing. Devotional prayer book, probably either the St. Ambrose prayer book by the Lancelot Andrews Press, and then tied for that is Blessed Be God, which is an old Catholic prayer book. And then uh, probably the Liturgy of the Hours. I really like the Collins edition, although I've been using the LOTH that you sent to the show, Justin, and also probably the Monastic Diurnal. The Monastic Diurnal, let's just say, is my favorite prayer book of all time. I really, really enjoy that one. I feel that it's in depth yet straightforward at the same time. And someone who's traditional can pray it. Someone who is, uh, I guess you could say, more modern or post Vatican II can also pray it as well. Yeah. Okay. So back to what I was saying about the uh, the last live stream we did, we had about 16 people on our last live stream. I see that we have a couple more people who just joined us. Again, this is a Q and A, so if you have any questions, any at all, really, it could be about my religious experience. It could be about my upbringing or anything like that, my personal life. I'll be careful not to get too personal. But really, okay, similar question. I'll stay in this arena for now. What about your most used prayer book of all time? Okay, so my most used is probably the Lancelot Andrews Press Monastic Diurnal. Is it my daily driver at the moment? No. Interestingly enough, though, my next review and one that I'm getting in the mail, God willing, tomorrow is the Farnborough Abbey Monastic Diurnal, and that is going to be a review that I'm going to film hopefully the day after or yeah, they make amazing stuff, honestly. I have not yet gotten the matins. I'm afraid of the matins, in all honesty. I think it's an overwhelming office, but I think I should probably get it for the show. But the as I was saying though before, um the monastic excuse me, the monastic diurnal uh for Farnborough Abbey. Hopefully, I'll be getting it very soon, and there will be a review on it. Probably the next review, if not the one after that. I'm also probably going to be reviewing. Oh, hello, Cassandra, from Alberta. Okay, a little bit earlier in Alberta than it is. There is a Western Rite Orthodox priest who actually does lessons on how to use. Yes, I've seen that video. It's very interesting. Um, yeah, so I'm either going to do the monastic diurnal Farnborough Abbey version or the English office book next. Here's a question for the audience, even though this is a Q&A asking me questions. Uh, how does the Western Rite Church reconcile post-schismatic saints in their calendar? Because I know for certain that there are possibly the majority of saints in the monastic diurnal are in there, and it is technically a Western Rite book. And from what I can experience, Western Rite or Orthodox Christians in general are not as excited about the post schism saints. So if anyone is, I don't have a Western Rite officially. I I don't believe. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't omit them from the copy. I guess it would be, I don't know, very interesting. I guess privately, no one would really have an issue with it, except for from the Orthodox perspective, the Western saints have committed schism, which is not really their fault. You know, you can't really avoid being born into what someone might what might believe is the wrong church. Okay, so we have, it seems, a couple people in the live chat. Um, what else is going on? I'll continue speaking if I mean, I'll wait for more questions to come in as well because it's only 6 minutes. I'd be surprised if anywhere near the majority of LAP diurnal users were actually, yeah, actually, Henry, you make a really, really good point. Yeah, I would be shocked as well. Probably the vast majority are Catholics who really do not have a good, strong understanding of Latin, and many High Church Anglicans. After all, it was an Anglo-Catholic um, addition for a very long while. Um, so yeah, I was going to say that while we have people waiting or trying to sign in and stuff, I would say that the uh, upcoming, I guess, practices of the channel going forward, and I want to make a clarification because I made the announcement video on, I believe it was Wednesday. I do know some Western Rite parishes do celebrate the martyrdom of King Charles I. Yeah, and as do some ordinariate parishes as well. I don't think that he'll ever be on the calendar, but I think they do have a King Charles Martyr Society within the ordinariate. At least that's what Charles Coulomb claims. So the channel moving forward, I want to make a clarification, and I don't think that any of you on the call right now or the live stream would really need to know this, but um, the channel's content every Tuesday, and sometimes Wednesday if I can't make it Tuesday, every Tuesday is not changing, right? So maybe that needed some clarification. There is not going to be any uh, reduction of the free weekly content that and the community posts and the very rare shorts that I post on the channel. The only thing that's going to be actually added is the for the premium subscription is the evening prayer and uh, the ordo that I created. Which, thank you again, Henry, for the suggestion to make it double column to save space. I also want to mention too that someone brought up, I forget if it was one of the Davids that watch the channel or Crab Cakes, one of those two, mentioned be careful because of the copyright. Now I researched this, and as far as I can tell, I can recite the office without any copyright infringement. I don't think you need permission to recite the office at some sort of a live stream. That may have changed because of COVID. Uh, and if that is still a danger, if that is still a legal copyright danger, if I make a reflection or review at the end of the Sunday evening prayer one, then I would not be in. It would fall under fair use. Okay, so I just wanted to make another clarifying point to that. Okay, so a couple more people have joined in. This is a Q&A. If you have any questions about the channel, about myself, about Catholicism, ICEL, I think pretty partly holds the copyright on the yes, so they hold the copyright on the LOTH. That is certainly correct. The compilation of the but they don't hold copyright on the actual scripture itself. So um, if I were to omit prayers or add my own or anything like that, and make a reflection on it, uh, that that would be within the bounds of fair use. So this is a Q and yeah. So this is a Q&A. Any questions about me, the channel, or anything, now is the time to ask. I will check if anyone has put in the community post. Okay, thank you for introducing me to the St. Gregory Prayer Book. I'm loving the experience of the ordinary approach to Catholic life. Do you have the ordinary missal? Thoughts on it? All right, and I have another question from Justin as well. What is your favorite Bible translation? Um, so to answer Michael's question, I have been to, and Henry as well. So I've been to an ordinary at mass once. Um, I do not have the missal. It's a little hard to figure out which one I should get, the priest study one, the Sunday missal. It's also pricey. There's three factors that go into it. One, which one should I get? Two, price, and three, shipping. It's coming in from the UK, so I don't know where I should get it. My thoughts on it, though, initially should be I do not know why the Catholic Church has not Catholicized the 1928 Book of Common Prayer for the Americans and the 1662 for the English Church, and so on and so forth. That, in theory, should have been the only book that they published besides perhaps a lectionary, right? So, a daily lectionary, that is. I do not know why there's a St. Gregory's Prayer Book, a Divine Worship Daily Office, and a Missal. If the British can create, if the Church of England, I should say, can create a breviary and missal and catechetical work all in one volume, I don't know why the Catholic Church can't do it either, especially since we have many more resources and many more parishioners at least at this moment in England, even uh, at the moment. So I think that the personal ordinariate is a wonderful, uh, I guess, ministry, and I'd love to see it expand. But at the same time, I feel that the Catholic Church is not approaching it in the correct way. It's not that hard to make something. I totally concur in this. The Book of Common Prayer is some of the finest work in Christianity, making one volume for all the faithful to own. Yeah. Uh, okay, so the next, so to just to quickly answer Gary's question because it's not pressing, but I'll answer it. I don't know if pressing is the right term or not. Will you still? So for the time being, I will post on locals, but at some point, I will probably make a mention to the local supporters that this YouTube thing is replacing it. The YouTube membership will replace it, and for good reason, in my opinion. The content on locals, and this is my fault, was sporadic, and the UI for locals from my end was horrible. Sometimes things would get uploaded twice, sometimes they would not get uploaded at all. Sometimes they would some and it would just be difficult. So this is replacing it. The exclusive videos that's okay. Yeah, so this will replace it. So next question, what's your favorite Bible translation? I'm going to go to I'm going to steal a page from Bible Illustrated, who is an Orthodox YouTuber. Boyan is his real name, and copy off. I'm going to piggyback off of him, and I'm going to say that one needs a readable translation and one needs a beautiful translation. For readable translation, RSVCE I feel is very readable, and then beautiful translation, probably the Dewey Rames, and then probably like a happy medium is the ESV CE. I don't have a copy myself, but my friend has a copy. I've read it, a few verses from it, and the ESV CE or ESV in general is a fairly nice copy. I want to look at the Jerusalem Bible. I also did a review on the Knox Bible, which I also like, but my final answer is readable copy RSVCE, beautiful copy Dewey Rames. Here's another question. What was the first prayer book you really got attached to and got you so much into them? For me, it was probably yeah. Okay, so I really like the Little Office of Baltimore. It's the second review I ever did. However, the first prayer book that got me really into them, it's it was a book called "Come to Me," which is actually an Orthodox prayer book. The reason I ever got it was because I wa I was, very involved and kind of still am involved in the Ruthenian Catholic Church, which, just to put this into perspective, there's only about 600 so thousand members. How many of those are active? I'm not really sure. And, uh, hello, Quentin, Bergenholtz. Thank you for joining. Uh, there aren't that many active members of the Ruthenian Church. And when I was at Seton Hall, I met a kid who was part of the American Carpatho-Russian Orthodox Church, which is pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference I would say, besides very minute theological, really canonical differences, is the translation of the liturgy and the breviary. And I saw that he had this uh, tiny little leather prayer book, and it was really for kids, but this is something that anyone could use. And I saw that it had morning prayer, evening prayer, words of the divine liturgy, and a bunch of other devotional stuff. And I thought, oh wow, this is really nice. And then I really noticed, I'd really like a prayer for this. I'd really like a prayer for that. And so uh the number of prayer books kept on increasing. So I've got a bunch of Eastern books, I've got a bunch of Western books, and I've kind of settled back into being comfortable as a Western Christian. I always was a Western Christian. I never canonically changed. Hello, Chain Lobster. Thank you for joining. So I never technically changed. Um, uh, but I kind of thank you so much, dude named Duncan. Dude named Duncan, I think it was you that asked about the copyright issue, and I looked into it, and I will be okay. I think it was you, dude named Duncan. If not, we'll we'll figure that out. But uh, and so I settled back into being a more active. Oh, it wasn't you. Okay. Then it must have been someone else. I think it was either crab cakes or I don't remember, but uh and so my main practice is Roman Catholic to this day, and I would say it's somewhere in the spectrum between normal Novus Ordo Sunday Catholic to traditional, uh, Tridentine Mass type or Mass of 1962 or whatever the extraordinary form, right? And so I will 85% of the time attend a Roman Catholic parish. Um, Let's see what else. What type of Protestant? I was never Protestant. I was raised Catholic all my life. You caught the what's it called? live stream a little bit late, but I was saying that I kind of flip flop between Roman Catholic and Byzantine Catholic. So I never converted to Catholicism. I envy converts. I think that they have so much wisdom and bravery, and they really make the religion their own. They really get a hold of the religion, I think, better than a lot of cradle Catholics do. I will say I had a reversion or a metanoia or a change of heart of sorts. I grew up Catholic. My ethnicity is Southern European. I am Mediterranean. My family's from Spain, so theoretically we've been Catholic since Moses wore short pants, unless if they converted to Islam during the Caliphate or something. But so I've always been Catholic. Everyone in my family is Catholic. I went to parochial school my entire life. I thought the parochial school was pretty good, still do. My parish growing up, especially in my teen years, uh, was a little bit flaky, dicey. Um, Not liturgically sound all the way. I'm not going to name the parish for important reasons, for privacy reasons, but a lot of they took, let's just say that they took the term week of Christian unity very seriously and very literal. We're talking about Protestant pastors concelebrating the Eucharist, the the rite of the Eucharist, the fraction of the Eucharist not done properly. People who were not Catholic were receiving communion. And it wasn't that the pastor did not know, it's that the Protestant minister during the week of Christian unity co-celebrated, co-consecrated, quote unquote, and received the sacrament, which is not acceptable, obviously. And so I I left that I never left the church. I left that parish. In my teenage years, I wasn't very faithful, revered thanks to the uh, I, revered thanks to the Catholic Ordinary and the Divine Office Prayer Book, or reverted. Uh, Please clarify, Chain Lobster. Um, in my teenage years, I was revered. Okay, thank you. Um, I was definitely going to church every Sunday, saying my prayers at night, but morally speaking, I was not I would say I was not in good standing with the church. I probably should not have received communion in my late teenage years, but that's I think a lot of people. Thank God I did find out a little bit more, especially attending. Oh, reverted. Okay, reverted. Yeah. That's I wanna know more about that chain lobster if, yeah, autocorrect is the worst. Um, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so what I was saying was, when I went to Seton Hall and when I met a bunch of people there and people in, say, Focus and to a lesser extent SPO and the, community of St. John and just the regular archdiocesan priests, I would say, that I got a true understanding of what the church was and so on. So I would say that that was very interesting. Your first prayer book was the St. Gregory prayer book, Quentin. Um, that came out not so long ago. So I'm kind of surprised uh, that that's your first, unless if you're young or if you converted. Let's see what Henry has to say. I'm also a cradle Catholic who grew up in a meh parish, although we do mostly stay on the script, unlike yours, thankfully, and had the out of it phase until I was about 16 or 17. Like 20, yeah, probably around 2015 for the St. Gregory's Prayer Book. By the way, Henry, I always read your comments in Phil Hartman's voice because of your profile picture. I think you would appreciate that. And I love The Simpsons, so I really appreciate the Troy McClure profile picture. So yeah, um, let's see if there's any other questions that roll in. We are about 25 minutes in at the moment. Uh, a little bit more about the channel in the future. I would Well, I'll ask you more mundane question, but how was your holiday weekend? Uh, okay, so my holiday weekend was pretty good. My wife and I went to her parents' house. Oh, congratulations on getting confirmed 2 years ago. Quentin, are you in the parish of Saint John Paul II in Bethlehem, PA? I That sounds very creepy, but I follow them on Facebook, and I think you may have gotten uh you there was a post about you. I don't know, but I won't creep you out any further. Um, so my holiday weekend was good. Um, my wife and I went to her parents' house. They are in Reading, Pennsylvania. Uh, Definitely not. Okay. All right. Okay. So maybe you're not the person who got confirmed in 2 years ago. All right. So we went to Bethlehem, PA, to not Bethlehem, Reading, PA, where my in-laws live, and we, did the obligatory barbecue. We were going to go to a baseball game, but it got rained out. And then, my father-in-law and I had a couple beers and so on and so forth. It was very nice. What is your preferred Bible translation, and what are your critique of it, if any? Okay, so my this was a previous question, but I'll answer it again because you were not here. Preferred Bible translation, probably my preferred daily reader rather than beautiful liturgical level. Oh no, Duncan, it's okay. Um, is RSVCE. My critique of it, if any, is probably for as accessible as it is, the print in most of them is too small. And that's not really a problem with the translation, right? I would say um the the problem is maybe a lot of alternative translations are put in there when I think that in the footnotes when I think it should have been switched, and I think it should be for a lot of like theological reasons. So, for example, I think, and I could be totally wrong about this. I seem to remember it from my college days that the alternative translation for um, sewed fig leaves as clothing for Adam and Eve. The alternative translation, Uh, just 1 second. No. Interesting username. No. Um, is aprons instead of clothing, and I think that that's a much better translation because it shows that man and woman will have to work in order to reach their salvation, or work to survive. I guess you could say when really we're really the only species in the world that does that. Okay, so no, have you ever heard of the Syriac Maronite Shmito or Shmimto Fos Fosekioto? I have not. I am familiar with the uh Syriac Maronites, but I'm friends with a Maronite Christian. So but I'm not familiar with what that is, whether it's a brevier or whatever. I will have to look into that though. So but thank you for bringing it to my attention. Hi from Ireland. I've loved watching your channel grow, although it hasn't been good for my wallet. Any advice for a 20 something Catholic revert with no idea of where to start? Uh huh. Okay. So, Clockwork O'Connor. First of all, let me just say, I never want to make this channel uh, a way for me to make money. No, and nor do I think that every video should be um, an opportunity for you to buy something. To answer your question, Clockwork, there are two, maybe three books that I think that you should have as a young Catholic, and I'll give you some advice on how to make money. So the first, not a book. So three things. Two of them are books. One of them is, you probably guessed it, the Rosary. That sounded condescending. It's not. One book. I don't know if this is available in Ireland, but if it's available on Amazon, theoretically it's available in Ireland. By the way, I'm 1/8 Irish, and my wife is Irish as well, and we visited uh in late February this year, and we absolutely loved it. We have friends who are in Legion of Mary. So, Catholic book of prayers or something very similar to this. This is, a morning and evening devotion. This is the words of the Mass. This has Stations of the Cross, different devotionals, so on and so forth. Um, and I would recommend this, and I would also recommend uh, a shorter morning and evening prayer, which is by Collins Publishing for the British Isles, for UK and Ireland, and that is the British or Commonwealth or Irish version, or equivalent, I should say, of shorter Christian prayer, and that has morning and evening prayer devotions. And to make more money, Clockwork O'Connor, I would say try to invest in a high interest rate bank account. Try to get a credit card that has good points that you could use to make purchases. And I would also say, um, try. I don't know what the real estate law is like, but if you could invest in real estate, that's a great way of creating a supplemental income. Not that you asked for that, but I'm sorry. Have you ever taken a look at the 1965 missile, that weird in between missile that existed between the traditional Latin Mass and implementation of the Novus Ordo? So, Justin, that's a really good question. When it comes to the 1965 or the interim rite or the interim Mass, anytime you look this thing up and you do just that basic research, they think you're talking about the Novus Ordo. The only evidence that I can find on the internet that it existed, besides someone's memory of it, which of course my parents have no memory of it, even though that's the mass they kind of grew up with, is some video randomly uploaded of a Dutch bishop offering that mass, and it's still very reverent. I would say that there's less room for interpretation. Not that the Novus Ordo isn't inherently reverent, just I would say 8 out of 10 Catholic parishes, at least in the Western world, are not particularly reverent. So I'll have to do some research on the 1965, more deep research. YouTube doesn't really have a lot of results. Dude named Duncan, sorry for uh, dude, Duncan, I agree with you, but a lot of people might interpret it as me being some sort of yeah, trying to take advantage of people's religious beliefs and convictions for money, which the money is the last thing. I really want to just spread I guess apostolic Christianity. But the RSVCE or RSV2CE, probably I guess the 2CE, the font size in the Great Adventure Bible is 10 and a half, if I remember correctly. Don't own it, will own it, and there will be a video on the Great Adventure Bible. Blessed be God is a good alternative to the Book of Prayers if you don't mind that it doesn't have the Novus. Or I wish, Henry, that the Blessed be God, and this is in reference to Clockwork O'Connor, um, I wish they made a Novus Ordo version of that. That could easily be the be all and end all of many Catholics' book collections if it had the Novus Ordo. It's a bit, and for the readings too. The only complication is that we're on that 3 week, or excuse me, 3 year cycle for readings. But if you did, uh, and year one, year two for daily, that's the only, I guess, wrench in the plan. Just wondering. This is no. Thank you for the affirmation, Clockwork O'Connor. No says, just wondering. I go to a Maronite church, and the Shmitmo is a breviary for the Maronites. Unfortunately, there is not an English translation for it. It's completely in Syriac. Well, speaking of wrenches in my plan. I do not speak a lick of Syriac. I will say, I know that the Lebanese uh, speak, or some of them speak French. I could probably fare mediocre with the French. Cassandra Bowl, it comes in a large print version, which I would guess is about 14. I don't personally have an issue with the font size. I know that many on my channel will. Particularly, and this is no secret, Andy Wynn, who has his own YouTube channel, and Andy has a vision impairment, and this is no secret. He knows it. He knows, but he has mentioned it on the channel, and I want to make sure that make I can make fair reviews for everybody. I've been blessed with really good vision, thanks be to God. Um, that's the issue with lots of Eastern prayer books. 90% of yeah, very few English translations, and sometimes the English translation that is officially given out by that patriarchate is not even the tradition, translation that they use in the liturgy, which is annoying. If it included the Mass and readings, it would be the prayer book. Given how thin of a part of the book of the TLM readings are, I think they could afford to do it triple that, if not make the book two. I agree, Henry. Duncan, do you read the books you review? Do you mainly collect them and read the ones you find good? That's a good question. Part of one, I guess, one of the uh, things that made me think, do I create this channel is, am I just going to have a bunch of books that sit around that are not used? Uh, One of the solutions, I guess you could say, to that is, um, uh, I will use that book for a week at least, and then I will kind of jump back and forth between all the ones I find good. I always make sure to have a good understanding of the book before I review it. I was mentioning before that probably tomorrow I will receive in the mail the Farnborough Monastic Diurnal. And I want to have a good understanding, ribbon it correctly, really look through it before I review it, which might be at Saturday, it might be Sunday I review it, it might be Monday, or but it can't be Tuesday because I upload on Tuesday. But and I will probably use it in conjunction with the LOTH 4 volume set in order to really get a good understanding of that. Now, at some point, these books are really going to pile up. And I don't think that I will ever necessarily get rid of them or dispose of them. But if I find that if I encounter someone personally that uh, needs something in their life, I might donate a book. Uh, and so that might happen as well. Um, odd, bit of a specific question: are you planning to pick up a second edition Anglican Office book? It really looks like a great all-in-one volume for anyone. Yeah, so I recently got a comment that was very flattering that the review of the Anglican Office book was one of my best, which I don't know if that's true. I certainly enjoy the Anglican Office book. I have often thought, oh, we really needed 1928 without the 39 articles or the explicitly Protestant and or Anglican, uh, I guess, tenets in there for anyone who wants to just pray the Psalms in the Bible, in that, because there's nothing uh unorthodox or uncatholic in that. Uh right? So my and so yeah, for the review, for the sake of reviewing, I will get the second edition. I just wish there were two things. One, I wish that maybe it wasn't KJV or it had all the deuterocanonical books in the Bible. And two, maybe rather than it being in the order of a Bible, Lance, or is that his name? Well, yeah, his name is C. Lance. I forget his last name. Uh, Lance uh, would have said, okay, this is the lectionary. We're sticking with this. This is communal prayer. This is the order it's in. Though I understand 100%, and I agree to a certain extent why he made it just at KJV, Genesis to Revelation. Uh, all the books in your Greek Orthodox parish are Greek, though it is tempted me to sign up for the Greek school. Greek is tough. I can like read. I can't read Greek. I can read Cyrillic. I can pronounce Cyrillic, but I can't understand it. Ooh, I've heard tons of great things about Farnborough. Even some of the Western Rite Orthodox prefer using it to the. Did not know that, Justin. That because a lot of Western Rite Orthodox people, and I'm not saying this is an insult. I'm saying this as an observation, are very proud of their vernacular. And I, one thing I will say is I do not like that the English is exclusively in the gutter. That makes it very hard to read the English, especially for someone who doesn't know Latin. I really wish it was left, right, left being Latin, right being English, left being uh, right. So I wish that the English was not just exclusively in the gutter. Problem with a lot of the Anglo-Catholic books is that they cost an arm and a leg. I have taken a second mortgage for just a copy of the English Missal. Yeah, the words that immediately came to mind, Justin, is Anglican Breviary. Fantastic book if you can pick it up. A lot cheaper than the 3-volume set by Baronius. But at the same time, the binding is a little bit, uh, I guess, subpar. I don't know if that's the right word. And then the solution is to buy a protective case for it, but then you're paying for the protective case. Um, Oh, sorry to interrupt my point. Is it does contain the deuterocanonical. Thank you for that clarification and correction. If currently praying the first AOB, it's probably my favorite breviary I've used. The readings are long. Oh my gosh, are they long? Yeah, they're so long. Are long if you use the Canadian lecture, but there's also a more brief one included. That's where I got the Psalms for the Ordo I created, Henry. Where you have like one or two psalms, then the reading, and then right. Um, yeah, that I like that uh lectionary a lot more because it's a lot more inviting, more thematic and such. A lot of Anglicans don't like that one though. But to go back to the price of Anglo-Catholic books, the English missals horribly expensive. I think it's like I don't know how much it costs at the moment, but there's the English Missal, there's the Anglican Missal. Um, both are similar, if not exactly the same, except different publication. What prayer book should every Catholic own? That's the thing. I suppose some version of the Divine Office, even if they're praying just one of the hours a day, even if it's just night prayer, some version of the office. If not, Catholic Book of Prayers or something very similar to it, something that has a routine to it and has some devotionals to it. Um, there's kind of not that there's no such thing as the perfect prayer book. If you're traditional and you want to pray the hours, but you cannot afford a diurnal or something else, if you're a traddy, that's not an offensive term to I didn't mean it as an offensive term. Little Office of Baltimore. Um, I would say just in general, some version of the Divine Office slash Breviary slash Liturgy of the Hours, even if you're just praying night prayer or something simple like that. That's the prayer book that every Catholic should own. Just out of curiosity, this is a question for you because someone, I think was it Duncan? Oh yeah, Duncan thought I was a convert to the faith. Is anyone a convert to the faith here? Uh, I don't. Anyone a convert to the faith? While I'm waiting for the answers to that, I will say what the origin of the name. I don't know if anyone cares about the origin of the name of the channel, but Convinced Catholicism, first of all, I like alliterations. Uh, but second, I had been doing a lot of research of the history of the church, and I realized that Catholicism, and I would say apostolic Christianity in general, has always been the thinking man's religion. It's not an explanatory religion, like it's raining because the gods are sad. It's hot because the gods are angry. It's snowing because of this or whatever. It's always we're always trying to figure out something true, I guess. Um and just to interrupt myself, I was a revert from Jehovah's Witnesses, to throw you a loop there. Justin, I would love to learn more about that. Maybe this is not the time and place, though. I'm not a Catholic, but I plan on attending RCIA when it starts in a couple months. Well, first of all, Duncan, congratulations and welcome to the faith. I hope and pray that your conversion goes smoothly and that you grow ever closer to God. There's actually someone else in the RCIA at the moment. Amy's autopsy report, one of the longest supporters of the channel. She's currently in RCIA, and she, if anyone remembers it, way back when, she actually won the giveaway of the rosary for 100 subscribers. So 900 plus subscribers later, she's still watching, and I'm very grateful. And again, I'll be praying for you, dude named Duncan. Uh, so to go back to what I was saying, Catholicism is always uh, it's not looking for the simplest of explanations. It's looking for the truth. And I also noticed in my research in the history, I'm a history major and I teach history as my real profession. uh, I noticed that there was a huge surge of converts to the Catholic faith from England in the, for lack of a better term, the Victorian era. A lot of that has to do with the Oxford movement. A lot of that has to do with ritualism. A lot of that has to do with uh, the liberal arts are the greatest, Justin. A lot of it has to do also with people like, and this is post-Victorian, Chesterton and such. Uh, that's not a stupid question, Duncan. I'll get to in a moment. So, uh, and a lot of the reasons why these people converted was because of looking at philosophy, literature, history, and these were upper class educated people, and therefore they were convinced and they were converted. They were skeptical. They were people who were looking toward logic in general. They they thought to themselves, show me the facts. They didn't settle for the Anglican church just because it was the national church and just because it was beautiful. They made a, one would say, a socially dangerous decision to convert to Catholicism. And so that's why I named the channel Convinced Catholicism, because Catholicism, in my opinion, and many others, uh, uh, would agree that it's a thinking man's religion. Yeah, well, Henry Newman, who was one of the, I guess you could say, the patrons of convinced Catholicism, said to study history is to cease to be Protestant or thereabouts. Okay, so to answer your question, what history do I teach? So I teach at a Catholic school. Uh, I will not disclose which one as a security measure, and not that I don't trust you, but it's a school within the control of the Sisters of Mercy, the technically the largest orders, though it's shrinking unfortunately due to age. The largest religious order for women in the Catholic Church at the moment, uh, and I teach a subject. I used to teach a subject called Global Studies, which basically means a study of history, how of how the world developed after the, I guess you could say, the Cold War. And we it's a combination of like a 20th century history and a current events. And it's meant to take a look at world history outside the perspective of American history. which is where I teach in the United States. I currently teach United States History 1. In the state of New Jersey, it's divided into two parts. Part 1 goes from Columbus to, let's just call it, post Civil War ish. So, restoration or reconstruction, excuse me, ish. And then part 2 is reconstruction to theoretically 9/11. And I teach world history, which is in the state of New Jersey, really a European history course with bits of Asia, India, and Africa thrown in there. Uh, Faith isn't a set of abstract facts, it is a living organism with a real, tangible history. I 100% agree. Part of the reason I made the channel. It probably helped that I wasn't solidified in my theology and always regarded Catholics and as Christians. And okay, that's actually very good. Um, that you considered Catholics Christians. I mean, I mentioned previously that all my family's Catholic. My family's been Catholic. They're from Spain, so my family's been Catholic since. Well, if Paul made it to Spain, hopefully since then, or but since probably the 300s. But they're down south, and they don't even realize that they're Christian. They know that they're Christian, but a lot of people don't think that they're Christian. Quentin, you had a comment before that my mother converted from Jehovah's Witness to Catholicism. That's good, Quentin. Um, Clockwork O'Connor. Newman was the founder of my alma mater, but it is now a hostile environment for Catholics and Christians generally. Yeah. Um, Fortunately, however, since Newman, like the rest of the saints, are alive in Christ, their work can be seen. Newman was absolutely an Oxford theologian and part of the Oxford movement. Yes. So the good thing about Newman is that he's alive in Christ and his actions through God are still active, and there are plenty of colleges that have Newman centers. Just as a random point to make, I have here, and this is probably going to be reviewed at some capacity, whether for free or for my membership. Tracts for the Times, John Henry Newman, which is basically trying to defend the Anglican faith, but he ends up basically defending the Catholic faith in a way a little bit more complicated than that. But I'll explain in a moment. I'll explain when I review. U.S. history is something I know hardly anything about and am American. Is there any solid documentary or video series you can recommend, or do I really need to read books? Okay, so uh, the breadth of American history is complicated. I would say, uh, I'll get to your question in a moment, Henry. Uh, I would say that I would say try and find a time period you're interested in, and that kind of branches out to others. The first time period that I ever got interested in was when I grew up in Bergen County, New Jersey. There was a house, or is a house, that was given to the Prussian general Baron von Steuben for basically training. It was gifted to him for training the American soldiers in winter warfare during the American Revolution. My parents took me to that place, and I fell in love with it. So when it comes to now, here's the thing. So there is one book that a lot of American historians like to say is the starter pack on American history. And this is not a political comment. This is a uh, historical term. It has a Marxist view of history. I personally, politically, am not a communist. I very strongly oppose it. But you don't necessarily need to be a Marxist to be a Marxist historian. What a Marxist historian is one that believes that every moment in history is originates in conflict, which I personally and many historians do not personally believe. It's called Howard Zinn's People's American History, something to the effect. If you just type in Howard Zinn, it'll come up. That is a very biased view of history. I would say a good series of documentaries is anything. Uh, it's very mainstream, Duncan. It's the fact that you could just look him up and you know who it is. Boom. Uh, the People's History of the United States. Thank you. Uh, I was gonna say a good series of documentaries are probably the Ken Burns series. Um, Ron Chernow is a very, very, very famous author. He made the Broadway. He is the basis of the Broadway play for Hamilton. Looking at my just a fraction of my books. Uh, hmm. It's tough to say, honestly, what book is good for that. But I would say, oh, who else is a good one? Um, if you're interested in like wars and stuff, there's an Andrew Jackson book. Andrew Jackson. I have it, but it's probably at my parents' house. It's Brian Kilmeade and Don Yeager, Andrew Jackson, and The Miracle of New Orleans. And that is a really good, I guess, gateway book for a few reasons. Why is it a gateway? One, it's not a overly complicated book that people can't follow. Reason number two, it is you could say that Andrew Jackson shows a lot of American, excuse me, history with the fact that he is kind of the first president that isn't in direct connection to the founding fathers. He's also the next president that shows like the huge expansion of the United States through Manifest Destiny, the controversy with Native American or American Indians. You're very welcome. And the slave trade and the rich and the poor. Andrew Jackson was very much a president that was at the center of it all, and kind of looked at every sector of American culture. So I would recommend, yeah, um, Brian Kilmeade and Don Yeager's Andrew Jackson and the Battle of New Orleans, the battle that shaped American destiny. Okay, so I'll put the link in the chat. Um, Copy link address and I'll paste it. Oxford series on the history of the United States is very readable. I would agree. Anything Oxford is I would say reliable. Okay, so I am not going to put that in chat because for whatever reason there's a limit on the text. But you can check this for future reference. Okay, so let's see here. Is there any one piece of theological work you'd recommend to read? I've tried diving into things like Summa Theologia, just found it to be too much. Uh, Thomas Aquinas found it to be too much. He almost burnt it. And he said, all of a sudden, this seems like straw. Theological work. To be totally to be totally honest, and I would have to thank my friend Ben for this. Ben's been in my life a long time. He knew me and my wife since college. The UCAT, the Youth Catechism, is pretty good. But for theological, that's not really theological work, but that's a good, I guess, jumping point. Good theological work would probably be something by JP2 or Benedict the 16th. Crossing the Threshold of Hope is good. It explains what the papacy is really all about. I would also say there's a book by a church father, Saint Basil the Great. Saint Basil the Great. And I think it's by Saint Vladimir Orthodox Press. This is pre-schism, so it's not in opposition. It's called, oh goodness. How come I can't find? I own the copy. I just don't. Oh, On Christian Ethics. That's what it's called. I do like the Incarnation by Athanasius, mostly because of the reprints with C.S. Lewis's intro. Honestly, C.S. Lewis has some good theological stuff. Um, as high church and as Catholic-y as Anglo-Catholic can get. But um, there's also, yeah, there's also Jimmy Aiken. He's a Catholic apologist. I'm sure you've heard of him, Henry. He's also pretty good. Um, but yeah, this is. There's another book by JP2. Let me see. It's in my Amazon list. Someone's lighting fireworks in my neighborhood. That's fine. Let's see. It's by JP2. Oh, wait a minute. It's not on my list. It's in a box of library books I took from my school. It's nice to be in a Catholic school. Uh, I will I will pin the comments of the other JP2 book, which is very theological. Uh, I said we would do this till 9. This is maybe final call. If not, any other questions uh about me, the channel, about Christianity, about anything else? Let's see, anything else? Let's see if there's anything I missed in the comments. Hmm. What do you think sorry. What do you think what do you think it'll take to mend the schism? Okay, I've actually thought a lot about this within the last few days. I've noticed that there are a lot of people that think they can change my mind by insulting me, by calling me a heretic. And who knows, maybe they're right. I've done a lot of thought and prayer and research into the church I was born into, and I feel that this is a good bet. There's a lot more people converting to Catholicism than are leaving it, and Christianity in general than leaving it. Uh, and what I think will it has to take to mend the schism is not necessarily for any church to change its theology or doctrine. There are certainly issues that have arose on both sides since the schism. And by issues, I don't mean that this is an incorrect or correct theological issue. I mean it's caused controversy. For example, the Immaculate Conception made dogma. Uh, the Orthodox technically believe that Mary was conceived without sin. The issue is what the interpretation might be now that it's dogma and the way it was written out. On the Orthodox side of controversial or problematic belief is uh, the toll houses, right? So these are issues that are problematic for both sides of the church. If we were to have more open dialogue and lay out a plan of, I guess, action for both churches, then I think the schism will end. And I don't think that that's something that you would disagree with or anyone would disagree with. Um, I would, so like I said, there's a lot of people, and by a lot I mean like maybe once every 2 weeks. There's someone that thinks that I will drop to my knees and beg God for forgiveness and say, "Oh my gosh, I was wrong," because without any credence, without any explanation, they say I'm a heretic or Catholics or whatever. I mean, there was a there was a video that I put out recently. I think it was about OTH, where the comment was, I do like the really frank discussions and humility on both sides in Alexandria document that just came out." I'll have to take a look at that, Justin. But you know, I had a priest once that said that in some places the schism really doesn't exist. You'll be hard pressed to find Antiochian Christians today or whenever there's a genocide going on, unfortunately, that will disagree, right? And I want to turn to Saint Joseph of Arimathea, Yeah, Saint Joseph of Arimathea, who during a time of genocide that was conducted by Druze and Muslims in Antiochian Christian realms, that he was distributing the Eucharist to uh, Melkites and to Antiochian Greek Christians, Orthodox Christians. And so, in times of crisis, unfortunately, I think that there might need to be a time of crisis as well. But you know, how are you going to convince me that your side is correct? Your side of the schism or your branch of Protestantism or whatever is correct if you insult me. I always try to speak at a factual basis. I don't ever try to convince anyone that they're right or they're wrong. If someone says that this church is the one true church, I'll say what's true. It's part of the apostolic uh, succession. Yelling at somebody never brought them to absolutely. I mean, I think it was the LOTH video. Someone commented, "No thanks. I don't want anything for your." I think you would know the stereotypical Catholic priests. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I'm not going to say the word because I don't want to be demonetized before I'm ever monetized. Um, but and what does it have to do with LOTH? What does that have to do with the Psalms and Scripture and personal intercession to God and the feasts of the church? Right. So obviously those are troll comments, and I don't really care. I've learned to kind of reply to the worthwhile ones, be patient with others, and to ignore the ones that are not going to get anywhere. So, uh, times of crisis have shown that the schism really does not exist as much as people would like for it to. So, for example, the Crusades. Now, the Catholic Church, as a Catholic, I apologize to what happened to the Byzantium, but there's also the genocides that were going on in the Antiochian realm, and there's within the Antiochian realm, there's the Zogophites. I think that's right. The I don't know what they're called. It starts with a Z, but yeah, it's a tough one. Um, it's a tough one. I mean, not very. Also very political. It's also very political. But anyway, um, yeah, I hope that there's no schism. My Greek priest said that the it really boils down to the interpretation. That's really it. Yeah, I mean, we have church fathers that say there is no primacy in the bishops. We have church fathers that say that there are. I think one of the church bishops that say that there, and honestly, a lot of the church fathers that say that there um, are are Western, like Irenaeus of Lyon, right? So, or Lyons, or however you pronounce it, um, say that there's primacy in Rome. So it's a tough one, and if the church fathers couldn't agree on it, yeah. So Clockwork O'Connor, do you think being a witness to the faith in a hyper secular environment is encouraging to others? I 100% do. I 100% do. I have had friends that have gone back to confession because they've noticed how Catholic I am. They've asked me questions. They have asked me why I go to church when I'm so young, which is kind of like a ageist thing to say that church is only for old people. Pretty sure everyone here is below the age of 50. And if you're not, then I'm sorry, but hey, you seem young. uh, I think that the church is just as strong, if not stronger, than it has been. It's just that our numbers are scattered rather than low. I think that being an example in a hyper secularized world is incredibly encouraging to others. Um, that's how I became so devout as I am now, and there's a lot of room to grow in my devotion to God. Um, but I have had friends that have kind of been really just honestly perplexed and amazed, and they make a change in their life. One friend in particular, you know, started reading the Bible, started going to confession, started going to mass again because of that. There's another friend that I know that, and I'm not friends with this person, but another friend that I know, his friend went to a church for the very first time ever. I think he's not Christian, um, and just the one thing I'll say about it is, uh, please be sure. And I'm not saying this to any of you specifically, but people need to be sure to be a normal person. I think that there's a lot of people who think that their Christianity is an excuse to be someone who's socially awkward, or maybe they are Christian because they are socially, not because they turn to Christianity. I'm saying that their, uh, I guess, their personality trait, uh, I would say, led them to religion. I know a couple from Ireland, Clockwork, that they are part of Legion of Mary, and they go out to high streets, and they distribute miraculous medals and prayer cards of Frank Duff and so on. And you know, uh, I think that that might make a change to the right person at the right time. And I'll say what I've heard in from other YouTube videos. If the church starts looking like the world, then that's pretty concerning. And the time that the world did look like the church, people got too comfortable in their faith, and things kind of fell out of practice. Uh, be our best, be our own best example, I think, is a good rule of thumb. I agree. I admit this is a place where I struggle. I don't know many Catholics, and thus I'm hesitant to talk much about my faith openly. Just need to pray for strength. I don't know if you necessarily need to talk about your faith. I think that you just need to talk in a way that people will know that you are faithful. So maybe just mention, uh, the other day in church, I noticed this, uh, and this is maybe because I'm from New Jersey, or maybe it's because I'm Catholic, but I have the quintessential giant gold crucifix. You can make outward signs of your faith without just saying, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, Henry, but without just necessarily talking explicitly about Catholicism, I would say just plant little seeds here and there. Um, I've had people who have uh, come onto this page without even trying to, that YouTube kind of recommends it. But I would kind of just be as outward as possible. Uh, and maybe mention if something is going wrong in their life. Say, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I'll pray for you. You know, oh, I heard that you're getting a surgery. I'm going to pray for you if that's okay, whatever. And I think everyone struggles, to be fair, Henry, you're not alone in that. I think everyone struggles, and it's difficult. It's definitely a not an easy task, and that's part of the reason I made this channel. I always felt that my outward Christianity is not very strong, but I think because of this channel, it's gotten better. Um, Even if there's a activity at your parish, someone wants to talk to you, mention, "Oh, the other day I went out with my friends to do this," or whatever. Or so, yeah. Um, I think since it's 13 minutes past the time I said we would be on, and now that the numbers are dwindling just a little bit, let's see if there's just maybe one or two more questions. If not, uh, we'll sign off. But and it's been such a joy. Thank you again for 1,000 subscribers. I never thought that that would ever happen, and now as time is going on, I think it's uh more and more we can realize that this is something that's going to be a lot bigger. I can kind of equate this to the Catholic equivalent to Orthodox Review, which is where a lot of this has kind of come from. I'm very inspired by uh, Raphael or Andrew Fielder. Uh, he's not he's not doing well, so please pray for him. But This is kind of the Catholic equivalent of that. He's got about 4,000, 5,000 subscribers. Um, you missed Raphael. He's still making content. I would say his content has changed a lot in the past months, maybe year or so. Uh, I don't know if he can handle the channel anymore, unfortunately. I don't know what the condition is specifically, but pray for him. Yeah. But if he can get to 4,000, I think I can very much do that as well. And I'm on a bit more of a consistent uh, schedule than he is. But again, thank you so much for 1,000. We're already past it. Um, we're already past 1,000, and let's just keep climbing. You know, uh, this has been an amazing opportunity thing, I think, for all of us, and especially, I wouldn't say especially me. I think everyone has been touched by the channel in a way, especially because of God. But yeah, the I would say that probably Justin is because of the lack of frequency in his uploads, but and the fact that his channel has changed in many ways. But someone has to tell him that phone his phone was a better camera than the camera he has now. Better microphone as well. Okay, final question. Do you ever worry about running out of books to review? Thank you for joining, Henry. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't think I'll ever run out of books to review, fortunately. The church or somebody, whether that's the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, the Orthodox Church, is always putting out something. They're always putting out a new edition. There's always something I can do with the book that I've already reviewed, maybe a tutorial on how to use it. Um, there's books in my wish list. There's a bunch of books that are on high demand, Bible translations that are on high demand that I have not purchased or reviewed yet. Uh, there is just so many books. Not all of them are available to the public or in print anymore, but I don't think that means I can't review them anymore. I think that that just means that people will try to research it a little bit more. And maybe if I review something that's out of print, it will come back into print. Um, so eventually, eventually, I think money or time or my life or whatever will get in the way or right. But I don't think that I'll ever run out. There's a lot of books I'm looking at on my desk and in my bookshelf right now that are due for review. A lot of my Amazon wish list. So not for a very long time. Um, all good points. I also hesitant to ever talk about my faith too, but I suppose we never know how God might use us to. Yeah, clockwork. There was someone on the page that said, "Oh, congratulations! I wish I had the talent to do something with my faith." God doesn't give anyone faith God does not give anyone life if he doesn't have a purpose for that person. When I read that comment, that made me very upset. And I don't know if that person's on the stream right now or not, but I want you to know, whether you're going to watch this or not, maybe God will get to him somehow, that or her, it's him, right? Uh, get to him and say, you know, you have worth no matter what. Even if you are a mechanic, use your skills as a mechanic to share the faith with others. Maybe you can mention Saint Christopher as the patron of cars, or Saint whoever, right? Um, but yeah, it's amazing that we've gotten to 1,000 subscribers and then some. Uh, there's a lot to come. Probably the point I run out of books is um, I have to run. My cat is begging for dinner. Thanks for the stream and congrats again. Thank you. There's a lot to come, and I'll probably run out of books when we all run out of interest in the books, which is probably never. But thank you very much, and God bless, and congratulations to all of us for 1,000. Take care. Bye bye.